All right, everybody, welcome to a special edition of the Saints Happy Hour podcast, Friday gambling show on a Thursday. We're doing it on Thursday because we need to run a test of my computer. I got it cleaned up. I got all the computer
Sure.
aids and
Mm-hmm.
cancer and all the stuff taken off of it. Actually, no.
Sure.
And Andrew's got a date with, he's got to go and take
My wife.
his wife for her birthday dinner tomorrow. Uh, so we're
Sure.
testing out the live stream. Uh, so hopefully it's working. We'll see. By the way, Andrew, this show is free for everybody because of MyBookie. Guys, go to mybookie.ag. They have the best online gambling experience. And right now, if you use the code SHARE, you get 100% sign up bonus. That's right. You put in 100, you get 100. Use the code SHARE, mybookie.ag. You play, you win, you get paid. Terms and conditions apply. Andrew,
Yes, sir.
so the Pick'em show. We're going to get to the picks in just a little bit, but we wanted to go over some Saints injury news, and they did the report today. What did you find interesting about the Saints injury report today, and what do you think is going to happen? Is it going to be Drew, or is it going to be Teddy?
Well, before I answer that last question, my biggest surprise is Eli Apple. The fact that he was limited yesterday and full today. He looks like he's going to go, and I thought for sure he'd miss at least a week. With the bye week coming up, I was hoping maybe it would just be one game, but I figured for sure he was going to miss one game and potentially more. So I'm shocked to see him at practicing at full. I mean, I guess it was just a bone bruise, but that's great news. Obviously, that's a guy that we were really worried about, so that's great.
And they need all the help they can get at corner, man. They do.
Yes, yep. And then I saw that Kamara was limited today. He was back at practice, so. And they also cut Zach Zenner earlier this week, so I think that's a great sign that he's going to play. So those two things are encouraging. Obviously, a bunch of guys are out. Trey Hendrickson was full the last 2 days, so I think he'll be back, which is good.
Fredo said he saw Ken Crawley suiting up and went, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm good to go.
And then lastly, the Breeze. I mean, that's the big question. He's been limited the last 2 days, so I think if he has a full practice Friday, that's a sign that he's going. But honestly, at this point, I'm not sure. I think the Saints are playing it perfectly, though. You want to make the Cardinals prepare for both guys. Earlier in the week, I was convinced it was going to be Bridgewater, but I mean, credit the Saints. They have put the seed of doubt in my mind.
I will say, for the first time in 2019, the Saints are in the double-digit favorite category. They are favored by 10.5. So look, let's get right to it. Let's start with the picks. Listen, Fredo is in the chat room. He says no buffering, which is outstanding. The computer looks clean and fixed. That's great news. But if you
how's
listen
my
to this
audio,
gambling show,
Fredo?
Andrew,
Tell me how my audio is.
So Rutgers. This one is my first time in 6 weeks where I have just a tinge of doubt because they are playing some team named Liberty. That's the team that had the coach that coached from the dental chair in the press box for the first 3 weeks. Liberty is favored by 7.5. I don't know anything about Liberty except they had the coach coaching in the dental chair, and they're 5-2. But I said I'm riding Rutgers until they buck me, so I'm laying the 7.5. But I'm not laying the 2 units that I have been laying the last 4 weeks. I'm only doing the 1. So
you're a little nervous.
I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm still riding with Rutgers. Okay, so that's my first pick. Who's your first pick this week? Oh, and by
Well,
the way, sorry for Dylan. He got eliminated. He finally didn't defeat us. He only tied me at 4-1. So Dylan, it was fun for having you for 4 weeks, but you're gone now, buddy. Happy trails.
who are we gonna have on the show? I mean, no
Well, we're
one's.
not. We ran the test on a short notice. We'll get a patron next week.
Okay.
This week I didn't want to have a patron on and the new computer go to shit. Or the cleaned up computer go to crap and it not be able to post it, or the live stream sucks and all that, and they come on and they're excited to be on with us and then it doesn't even post. So this week it's just me and you.
Okay. Well, so what I've seen Seattle by 3.5 on some. I mean, I would take them if they were favored by 10 because I don't think Matt Ryan's going to play. So what spread do you have for that game? Do you have a
Um,
line handy for me?
I have. Let me go to the handy footballlocks.com.
Basically,
That's
whatever the spread is, I'm taking Seattle.
Seattle is -6.5.
Okay, well that's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean,
Matt
you.
Schaub might throw 7 picks.
I mean, Matt, and I said it in my column for Channel 4. I had a Matt Schaub is still in the league moment when I saw that. I was like, I can't believe it. So, oh, by the way, double digits now are, if you bet on every double digit underdog in the NFL this year, you are now 10-6. Buffalo and San Francisco both covered, but this week, man, you got Washington plus 16.5, Arizona plus 10.5, and Miami plus 14 against the Steelers. So that's another three. So we could go really into the green, Andrew, or we could fall back to almost 500. So my second pick this week is I'm taking Carolina plus 5.5 at San Francisco.
Hmm,
I am not sold on San Francisco. I'm not sold on Garoppolo as a good quarterback. I think
that's fair.
I think Teddy Bridgewater is better than him. And the thing about Carolina is, yes, they are attempting to murder Ed McCaffrey by giving him the ball 40 times a game, but their front seven on defense is as good as ever. They still have Kuechly. They still have the defensive line. They added Gerald McCoy, who's been really good. Their front seven is really, really good, and I think they're going to slow San Francisco down. Uh, I'm tempted to take them on the money line at plus 280, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm definitely taking the 5.5 in San Francisco. I really, really like that play with Carolina plus 5.5.
I like Texas A&M. They're hosting Mississippi State. Mississippi State is an embarrassment. They're garbage. I think it's 11.5. I'm going to take Texas A&M to cover that.
I mean, they barely beat Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is kind of bad. But Mississippi State is really bad, and their coach is playing footsie with Rutgers. And anytime your coach is thinking about leaving to go to Rutgers, you know he wants to get the fuck out of town. You know what I'm saying, Andrew? I mean, I,
That's
I don't know
dark,
what else.
dark times.
Dark times. Um, so my next pick is a weird one. Uh, and I will probably regret it uh, early on, but I'm taking Oakland plus 6.5 uh, at Houston. And I know people are probably like, if you didn't watch the Raiders Green Bay game, you probably look at it like the Raiders just got curb stomped by Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers had 5 touchdowns. He ran for another one, but that game, it was 14-10 Packers with like a minute and a half to go in the first half, and Derek Carr. did the stupid thing where he stretched out for the goal line and fumbled, and he fumbled it out of the end zone. So the Green Bay got the ball, went down and scored. It was 21-10, and then they got the ball in the second half and scored again. So it was 28-10, and it just got out of hand real quick. But if Derek Carr scores there, it's 17-14. The Raiders were doing kind of whatever they wanted on offense. It would have been closer. I think the Raiders, they're not good, but they're definitely like in the 6 to 8 win category. And Gruden, they're working out. Like, they drafted that kid from Alabama, Jacobs. Andrew, he's really good. And the guy who we all wanted, Foster Moreau from LSU, remember him, the big
Mm-hmm.
tight end that LSU could never figure out how to use? John Gruden figured out how to use him. He's going to be really good. I wish the Saints had figured out a way to get him. But that's my third pick.
Are we doing? So I guess we'll do LSU and Saints will be fourth and fifth,
Yes.
right? Okay. So I'm going to go back to college football for my next one. And I think Wisconsin is embarrassed by how they played last week. I always like taking teams that I think are pretty good after just like a colossal loss. They're at Ohio State.
Ooh.
By all accounts, they're supposed to get hammered. And I do think they'll lose, but 14 and a half, that's a huge spread. And Ohio State is at home, so but I just think more than two touchdowns. I mean, that starts to feel like, and Wisconsin's still a good team, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean,
And so I think Wisconsin covers that.
here's the thing. Wisconsin, they sort of dicked around. I watched the fourth quarter of that game just because I was interested. Um, and they fumbled. They got stuffed on a fourth down. And oh, by the way, Lovie Smith is coaching Illinois, which many of you may or may not have known. And Andrew, he has grown the most majestic white Santa beard that I have ever seen. It's literally like Black Santa Claus is coaching the Illini, and
That's true.
it is just his beard is just magnificent. And Illinois, like, they're 3-4. He might get them to a bowl, and then if you get Illinois to a bowl, you can coach there forever practically. So I was like, go on, Lovey Smith. And oh, by the way, thank God Tampa fired him. He got them from 1-15 to 7-9, and then Tampa fired him. Is like, we got to fire Lovey Smith because we can't have Dirk Cutter leave and go be a head coach or a coordinator somewhere else. So let's fire Lovey Smith. And the Bucks haven't been close to respectable since. Uh,
Very true. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I've always been one of those guys where, like, if coming off a loss, this is why I like Seattle too against the Falcons. I just feel
yeah,
like it's mission critical for Wisconsin. They might lose, but they're going to give a good effort.
yeah. Um, so my so now we'll go LSU, and these LSU spreads are really disconcerting, Andrew, because you look at LSU Auburn and you're like, that's going to be a knockdown drag on defensive game, and it's LSU by LSU by 14, and I have a hard time swallowing it and and laying these points, but LSU, man, they could just score so fast. Like Mississippi State, LSU was kind of dicking around. It was 9-0, then it was 9-7, and then boom, it's LSU scores, interception, scored again. It's 22-7. That's a wrap. They ended up covering with ease, right? So
Hmm.
even though these are giant point spreads, I gotta lay the 14. And oh, by the way, eh, give me your pick, and then we'll talk some more about LSU.
I think LSU wins, but I'm going to take Auburn. I still just think these big point spreads for LSU, and I took them last week kind of begrudgingly because I knew how bad Mississippi State was. But I just think with Auburn specifically, I don't trust LSU's defense. All season it's been disappointing to me. I've yet to see them play a game start to finish where I felt like LSU's defense could be anything remotely close to dominant, and so I just don't trust them. And I think 14 point this defense is not good enough to ensure a 14-point win against a talented team like Auburn.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is with LSU, and one reason why I just you want them to win so bad is, we've been these Alabama LSU games have been amazing, even last year it was Alabama was 1 and I think LSU was 3 or 4, and they had 2011 and they've had other times where they've both been undefeated. They had the one year where Leonard Fournette I think was a sophomore and LSU was undefeated. And look, we're like Charlie Brown with the football, right? We talk ourselves into it, and then LSU falls flat on their face, and we're like, God, I should have seen it coming. But we talk ourselves into it. But Andrew, this LSU Alabama game, if LSU can handle their business against Auburn and just win, I think it's potentially of all the LSU Alabama games the last decade, even more so than the national championship game. Because let's be honest, we were excited LSU when it was in the national championship game with Alabama, but nobody was like, "This is going to be a great game." Like we were like, "It's going to be another 9-6 slugfest if it goes LSU's way." And even then, it was 20-0. It was just boring
Well,
as hell.
I was praying that Alabama wouldn't get in. I
Yeah,
was
no,
lobbying hard for you shouldn't be able to get in if you don't win your conference.
because
Because deep down, I knew LSU would lose.
If stupid Dan Bailey would have just made the kick for Oklahoma State, it would have been LSU Oklahoma State, and LSU would have run for 900 yards, and they'd have a
Yeah.
statue of Les Miles. But either way, that game that rematch wasn't really like people weren't fired up to see it. This LSU Alabama game, it'll be amazing. You'll have Burrow, you'll have you'll have Tua for Alabama. I mean,
Will we
you'll have
have
one.
Tua though? Are we sure about that?
I mean, he's got the surgery. He might not be 100%, but he's gonna try to play. The only thing that'll make it not maybe as it'll be still be greatly anticipated. The thing that'll make it a little less fun is CBS can't put the game on at night because they already did Georgia and Notre Dame at night, and they have some sort of rule where they can only pick one SEC game a year and put it on at night, and they chose Georgia and Notre Dame. So it'll be on at 2:30, which will make it a little less fun. But Andrew, I
Hmm.
think it'll be the most anticipated LSU Alabama game of our lifetime.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And in some ways, if Tua comes back and he's banged up, in some ways, like that might be the best case scenario for LSU.
Tua will get shot up with Russian horse steroids. He's playing. That's Mike from Booking the Territory. Oh, and by the way, thanks to Mike
It's
and
actually Uzbeki horse steroids.
I want to thank
Specificity is important on this podcast.
I want to thank Mike for helping me with the audio and giving me specs on the computer that I'm going to buy with the patrons' donations probably this week and start the long. Mike knows it is a long, arduous process to get like the 7 programs that we need to do the live stream and have the sound effects and all that. It's a long ass process to get that set up. So I'm going to do that this week. I want to thank Mike and I want to thank Joey, who gave me some tips on how to clean up the computer, and I did those, but then I took it to a place and they did it even better. And instead of running at 90% capacity, right now we're only running at 27% capacity, hence no buffering in the live stream. But yeah, you're going to have Andrew, you're gonna have it won't be a great as big of a weekend last year when you had LSU Alabama on Saturday and Saints Rams on a Sunday, but you're gonna have LSU Alabama in 2 weeks, and then Sunday you're gonna have Saints Atlanta, and that could be really fun because the Saints should, in theory, kick Atlanta in the nuts, and then
Are you going to be
start.
at that game?
I am going to be in that game. I am doing
I will be there also.
day of fly in and fly out. The one thing that concerns me with that, Andrew, is the new airport in New Orleans is scheduled to open on November 6th. So
I've heard it's a complete shit show too.
and so it's a complete shit show. And it's one thing if I would be flying in like the day before or a couple of days before, but day of and it being a shit show and it being a 12 o'clock game, I'm landing at 7:20, so I have like 4.5 hours to get from the airport to the game. So I think I'll be okay, but it is concerning. I won't lie. So
I'm flying on Friday. Does that mean into the old terminal?
I don't know. Well, what's the day of the game is the 10th, so the 9th, 8th. No, you would be flying in the second day the new terminal's open.
Oh, great. Oh, good. That's great news. What could go wrong?
So, before we get to our last pick and get out of here, I want to remind people there's a link if you're watching this live or you're watching the archive version on YouTube or you're through Patreon or Art19 or wherever, there's a link to RSVP for the live show that we are doing December 14th at Tracey. And Andrew, if I told you 78 people have RSVP'd already, they're going to be there. They're going to get a T-shirt from
my wife.
It's going to be fantastic. RSVP, get yourself a T-shirt, get down there. This show, Andrew, the more I think about it, the more nervous I get, but I can't. I think I can't get any more excited. And then Andrew, who is in charge of the Armchair Media
Yeah, the
Network,
other Andrew. Yeah.
the other Andrew, he does Armchair Media. He sells our ads and that sort of thing. He gives me a daily update, and every day he gives me the update, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and I get more excited. I'm like, Andrew, this room, it holds up to 400 people. I think we're going to have like 250 people in this room. I am so excited for this.
Yeah, I'm pumped, and I hope you guys come out. I mean, especially Fredo, you're listening. You're on the chat right now, and I don't even know if Mike is Mike in New Orleans with booking the
No,
territory?
Mike's in Dallas.
Oh, he's in Dallas. Okay, but I hope you guys can come, and there's a few others on Twitter that are just I know are in New Orleans and always interact with us. So selfishly, like this is kind of like the one chance I get to put a face finally to so many of these names
Yeah.
on social media. So, we're not like Buddy D or we're not like some celebrities. We're just guys that podcast. So the main reason we do this is we love the Saints just like you.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it'd be fun to meet people and hang out. And, I've got 2 kids. I live in Virginia. And so I don't really get a chance to hang out with Saints fans. And that's
Fredo says he'll be there.
One of the main reasons I do this is because this is my way of hanging out with Saints fans. So anyway, I'm pumped.
It's just mind blowing to me and Andrew and Kevin, because to know where me and Kevin started this podcast with like 20 people listening, if that, on Blog Talk Radio, and then when Bountygate hit, there was so much news. Andrew had been on the show by then. We were like, it's so much news. We can't take a break. We got to do it every week because they're suspending Peyton. News is coming out. They have, Sean Pamphilon with the audio and everything. So we just started doing it every week. So we've been doing it every week for what, 7-8 years, and we've just grown this audience. We have this little community of Saints fans that love our ridiculousness and have stuck with us when we have bad audio issues. And we want to meet you guys, take pictures, shake hands, drink, and it's a great year because the Saints are freaking awesome this year.
Absolutely. Amen, man.
So, final game, and like I said at the top, the Saints are back to being a double-digit favorite after weeks of being underdogs. They were underdogs at Seattle, underdog in Chicago with Teddy. They're back to Vegas. And, oh, by the way, the Saints have covered 12 straight times in October.
Wow.
So I mean, the Saints are just like, you bet against the Saints in October at your own risk.
What's the spread?
The spread is Saints by 10.5.
Well, you have to pick Arizona then, right? Doesn't this go
I
against
do.
your
I have to.
cardinal rule of double-digit dog?
I will be betting on Arizona in the double-digit dog investment fund. But I won't be putting extra money on it. Like last week, I put extra money on Buffalo because extra money on Miami because I was confident that Buffalo was not going to cover that 17-point spread. It was dicey for a little bit, but Miami did me proud and got it. I'm going to take this game. I just think with the Saints, it's tough. In the double-digit investment fund, I have to bet Arizona. But if I was betting, because the double-digit investment fund, for people that are listening to the show for the first time, you bet every NFL double-digit underdog during the year, and 6 of the last 7 years, you've won 53% of the time. So it's just, I bet them all, and you can't make decisions and bet some and then bet not others. So Saints or Arizona's a double-digit dog, I bet them. But if I was betting this game one-off, I would bet the Saints. Like I think the Saints are going to cover because Andrew, Arizona, they've beaten 3 teams in a row, but they are bad teams. They're the Giants, they're Tampa, and like you said on the podcast, like they game managed against the Giants and barely won. Kyler Murray threw for 104 yards. They ran the ball a ton, and that's how they've gotten back. They average 127 yards on the ground, almost 5 yards a carry. But through 7 weeks, if I'm damn sure of one thing with the Saints, you can't run on them. And I don't think Arizona, with a backup running back that no one's heard of because David Johnson's hurt, I don't think Arizona's going to come in and run the ball. It is a little bit concerning that Arizona has a nice pass rush. They do have a ton of sacks. They're in top 10 in sacks. But if I was betting this game one off, I would pick the Saints to cover. I just think Arizona, their receivers stink. I just think the Saints are going to lock them down, and Kyler Murray's going to make a bunch of mistakes, and the Saints will win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I have to pick Arizona because I have to pick against the Saints. I picked Arizona to win the game based on the streak I have going that helped the Saints out. So, I mean, obviously, I pick them to cover 10.5. So, I'm going to stick with that. I pick Arizona. Hey, Fredo, since you're in the chat, if you want to be the guy that bets against us this week, go ahead and chat us your 5 picks, and then you can be in.
Well, no, Fredo. Wait, Fredo, you'll come on with us next week. Don't make the picks. Don't make the picks and let me read them off. Fredo, I'll get connected with you DM on Twitter, and we'll have you come on with us. Because
Fredo, go ahead and chat us your picks, but you can come on next week no matter what. I just.
What's the point over on that? No, and by the way, it's crazy to me in college football. Like Les Miles is got Kansas on the right track.
Man, Les Miles is tough to bet. Les Miles is a tough bet. He's like what I used to say about Tulane. Like just when you think they're awful and you're ready to write them off, they shock you and they cover against a ridiculous spread and a ridiculous team, and then you're like, okay, Kansas is pretty good. Les Miles has righted the ship, and then they have an awful loss.
Yeah, so they're a tough bet. They were a couple of years ago. They were like Rutgers to me, though. I was like,
oh yeah,
bet against the Jayhawks, man, because they are terrible. But hey, guys, I know there's not a ton of you in the chat room. There's only about 5 of you. But thanks for hanging out with us and sticking with us while we run the test on the live stream. Thanks for the gambling podcast. And by the way, we have this gambling podcast because patrons have donated $1,000 a month. Become a patron. If you join at the $10 level, you get a koozie, you get a magnet, you get access to the Daily Show every day. You get access to Andrew's grades. Every single player, every single snap, Andrew grades them. You can read offense, defense, special teams, and then on Wednesday, me and Andrew go over his grades, and I ask him questions and argue with him about certain players. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Andrew, have fun with your wife, her birthday dinner. Wish her a lovely happy birthday. I saw you changed your Twitter picture. You and her. You were looking lovely in the tuxedo, her with a dress. I guess that was from the wedding at Austin last week.
It was, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so you look lovely. Guys, thanks for joining us in the chat room. Have a spectacular gambling weekend. We will see you, the big show, on Monday.